Hey, how you doing? It is I, the Terrific Lady, otherwise known as Brandy, and welcome to Retro Horror School, and a happy Friday to you. I hope that you have very awesome weekend plans and that your weekend is going to be awesome. But enough of that. On today's video. Today's video is part of a new series that I would like to call Horror Icon Showdown. So, if any of you out there remember the show Deadliest Warrior, I used to watch that religiously. I loved it. But if you remember the show Deadliest Warrior, what happened is that they would have someone like Knight versus Pirate, and they would go over the history of those types of warriors, analyze their weapons, their strengths, their weaknesses, and then put them into a hypothetical battle. Well, that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over two horror icons, analyze their weapons, strengths, weaknesses, give some fun facts along the way, and then talk a little bit about a hypothetical battle and who I think would win. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're watching it and at the end you are like, hey, cool, I want to see more videos like these, then let me know in the comments below and I will make more videos like these. Here we go. First up, we have Michael Myers, also known as The Shape, from the 1978 John Carpenter's Halloween. He stands in between 5'10" to 6 feet tall and weighs about 165 pounds. His story began on October 31st, 1963, when he was a little Michael Myers and stabbed his sister Judith to death in a little town called Haddonfield, Illinois. Of course, after that, he was institutionalized, and then he broke out 15 years later to come back to Haddonfield and wreak havoc on his hometown and terrorize a bunch of people and just be a jerk. Michael Myers is a bit of a mad slasher. He is intelligent, strong, persistent, and stealthy. Solid Snake ain't got nothing on this guy.
Yeah. Oh. Just a boxer.
For instance, he learned to drive probably by watching other people drive, even though he had never driven a car in his entire life. So he's very perceptive. He's very perceptive along with all that and picks up on things. His weapon of choice is a knife, and he prefers to get in close and do hand-to-hand combat. His biggest strength is his extreme persistence. He will not let up. Michael is relentless and quick, and he will appear in front of you with his knife whenever you least expect it. And now we have Michael Myers' opponent, Leatherface. He stands between 6'2" and 6'4" and weighs 300 pounds. And before his family went completely off the rails, they worked in a slaughterhouse, and their specialty was bashing the cows' heads in with a sledgehammer. And whenever they introduced the new way of slaughtering cows with the air gun, they became out of work. So what does one do when they become out of work? They turn to cannibalism, and that is what Leatherface and his family did. They turned to cannibalism, eating people and using their bones as very grisly, pretty decorations around the house. His weapon of choice is a chainsaw, which is interesting for a slasher weapon. He isn't the sharpest tool in the shed. He isn't the brightest bulb in the pack, but he is strong. He is strong, and chainsaws are heavy, and he wields that chainsaw with just a extreme ferocity and a go-get-'em attitude. He has 3 different kinds of masks that he uses and switches out in between each of his different personalities. So there's old lady mask, then there's pretty woman mask, and then there's the kind of mask that he puts on whenever he dons the personality of the killer. That is his killer mask. A side note, the old lady mask is for when he's cooking, and the pretty woman mask is when he dresses up in a suit and sits down with his family for dinner. Ugh. Now that we know a little bit about our fighters, our contestants, so to speak, let's analyze their strengths and their weaknesses. Michael Myers is a man who's very intelligent, strong, perceptive, and most of all, patient. He has no problem with lurking in the shadows and taking his time to try and kill you. His main weakness is his weapon, his knife. It is a close quarters weapon. You have to be up close for it to deal any kind of damage. But his speed and his stealth would more than make up for the fact that he has to come in close with the weapon. Because of his speed and stealth, he'll be able to close that gap pretty quickly. Leatherface is definitely not as smart as Michael Myers, but he is strong and he is unpredictable. His unpredictability can be a strength because you're not sure of what he's going to do. But then it's also a weakness because unpredictability can cause you to make mistakes and not think out your next move. It could be a weakness in fights where you would have to be strategic and land a very precise blow. And his chainsaw is a deadly weapon, but it is loud, which removes the element of stealth if you got it running. But then again, Leatherface is not really a guy who's known for stealth. And chainsaws can get easily clogged and jammed, and knowing the nature in which he uses it to saw through humans, it can get jammed. It can get jammed with human parts, and because of that, it would be very hard to start up again. And then also, chainsaws have gas. It could run out of gas. Let's now dive a little bit deeper into each of our fighters or contenders. When you think of Michael, you think of iconic moments such as him pinning Bob to the wall and admiring his work. And you think of that because Michael Myers sees his kills as rewards. He sees his kills as a chance to just step back and admire his work and also scare the pants and bejesus off of other people by placing the bodies in ways creative ways and in creative places. He's also a master at the psychological terror and unnerving people because of the mask that has a blank, pale, emotionless face and black, bottomless eyes that you cannot get a sense of what he is thinking or feeling. As a fun little side, the mask was a modified Captain Kirk mask. It was chosen for its blank, emotionless look on a film that had a bit of a small budget. As you know, Michael Myers is known for his stealth and his walk, and that was the reason that John Carpenter chose Nick Castle, who played the original Shape. Nick Castle was there originally to watch the movie being filmed, and John Carpenter thought that he had an interesting walk and said, "Hey, play the Shape for me." And Nick was like, "Okay." And thus, Nick Castle playing the Shape was born. Now, when you think of Leatherface, you think of the iconic moment where he pulls Pam into the house and hooks her. This shows what Leatherface thinks of his victims. He thinks of them as little more than animals to be slaughtered, which makes sense considering like what they do with people. Greater care is taken with the way they use the people more than anything else, which is kind of strange considering how they view people. He is terrifying strictly because of his sheer size, the fact that he has a chainsaw, and that mask, that face made out of human skin. And a fun aside about his masks, Leatherface's different masks signified his changing personas and personalities, which made it very unpredictable and unsettling. Gunnar Hansen, who was the man behind Leatherface, had this to say about the mask. The idea of the mask is that there's no personality under the mask. That was the idea in talking with Toby and Kim. When they created the character, they said he had to put on masks to express himself because he himself couldn't do it. The way we tried to create him, there's nothing under the mask, which is what makes him so frightening. Now we are up to the battle. Michael versus Leatherface. How the heck would this go down? So picture this. The fight would take place on a neutral battleground with plenty of hiding spots, maybe a farm or an industrial park. Because of all these hiding spots, Michael Myers could definitely use his skills of stealth to his advantage, while Leatherface would mainly rely on his sheer brute strength and his chainsaw. Now, we're not talking, as another side, we're not talking supernatural Michael Myers. This is straight up human Michael Myers with a knife. So, human versus human. Now, Leatherface is used to instilling fear in people. So, the fact that Michael is very good at psychological terror and unnerving people, strictly because of that mask, it might throw Leatherface off a little bit. Leatherface, though, could gain the upper hand early on if he lands a good hit with his chainsaw. And as the fight went on, if Leatherface's chainsaw happens to jam or get stuck or run out of gas for whatever reason, that is the time when Michael would be able to strike because he's been persistent and patient this entire time. This showdown would be a battle of persistence versus sheer brute force, and the outcome would depend on who would exploit the other's weaknesses first. Would Leatherface exploit the fact that Michael would have to get in close to charge after him and get one fell swoop with his chainsaw? Or would Michael rely on the fact that he could unnerve Leatherface? He could wait him out, wait for his chainsaw to malfunction, and be persistent and patient, get in close, stab him, and it's over. I don't know, Michael versus Leatherface would be a really, really cool movie, I think. I mean, we already have Freddy versus Jason. Let's do Michael versus Leatherface. Let's make that happen. Now, when it comes down to who I think would win, I think that Michael would have the upper hand because he would be willing to wait out Leatherface. That man is nothing but persistent. I asked in threads on a poll about who people would think would win in that kind of hypothetical fight. And a lot of people said Michael Myers as well. Some said Leatherface, but the majority of people in that poll said that Michael Myers would win. And there you have it. The first of the Horror Icon Showdowns between Michael Myers and Leatherface. The winner would come down to tactics, whatever tactics they use, how they would exploit the other's weaknesses, and a little pinch of luck. Who do you think would win in this hypothetical battle? I would really love to know. Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like these, more horror icon videos, let me know in the comments below as well. Be sure to check out all my other retro horror school videos, whatever tickles your fancy. And sadly, class is dismissed, everybody, for now. But I will see you next time. Bye.